Page 1. The Psychology of Stupidity, by Jean-Francois Marmion. On Stupidity, a warning. Abandon all hope, ye who enter here. Good sense is the most equitably distributed thing in the world, wrote Descartes. And what about stupidity? Whether it oozes or drips, trickles or gushes, it's everywhere. Without borders and without limits. Sometimes it emerges as a gentle, almost bearable lapping, other times as a nauseating, stagnant swamp. Still other times, it's an earthquake, a storm, or a tidal wave that engulfs everything in its path, smashing, trampling, befouling. No matter what form it takes, stupidity splatters us all. Rumor has it that we ourselves are the source of it. I am no exception. The unbearable heaviness of being. Everyone sees bullshit, listens to it, and reads it, every single day. At the same time, each of us is guilty of generating it, thinking it, pondering it, and speaking it aloud. We are all morons from time to time, spouting nonsense as we go about our lives, without any real consequences. The crucial thing is to be aware of it and to feel sorry about it, because to err is human, and admitting your faults is halfway to having them forgiven. There will always be those who take us for fools, but we recognize our own folly far too rarely. Apart from the perpetual pervidiousy that surrounds us, day in, day out, there's also, sadly, the roar of the masters of stupidity, kings of stupidity, assholes with a capital A. Those assholes, whether you encounter them at work or at home, do not strike you as anecdotal. They hound you and harass you with their obstinacy and crass wrong-headedness, their unjustified arrogance. They prosper, they sign on the dotted line, and they would happily wipe out all of your opinions, emotions, and dignity with one stroke of the pen. They erode your morale and make you doubt there can be any justice in this vile world. No matter how hard you try, you cannot detect a speck of kindred connection in them. Stupidity is an unkept promise, a promise of intelligence and confidence that the idiots among us betray, traitors to humanity. These jerks are like dumb beasts, they're total animals. We might want to indulge them, to turn them into friends, but they're not on that level, which is to say, our level. They suffer from a disease that has no cure. And since they refuse to heal themselves, convinced they are one-eyed kings in the land of the blind, the tragicomedy is made complete. It's no surprise that people are fascinated by zombies with the simulacrum of existence they embody, their intellectual vacuity, and their overwhelming, fundamental need to drag the living, the heroic, and the simply decent down to their own level. And that makes sense. Idiots, like zombies, want to eat your brains. These failed human beings never fail you. The worst thing about them is that they can sometimes be intelligent, or at least make a show of it. They're so skilled at transforming the lineaments of learning to the bars of a cage that they would gladly burn books along with their authors in the name of some ideology, or of something they learned from some purported sage, idiotic or not. Uncertainty makes you crazy, certainty makes you stupid. Morons will condemn you instantly, with no appeal possible and no extenuating circumstances admitted, on the sole basis of the appearances they glimpse through their narrow blinkers. They know how to rouse their sympathizers, to goad them to lynching in the name of virtue, custom, respect. The idiot hunts in a pack and thinks in herd fashion. As the George's Brassens song goes, the plural is useless to mankind whenever, more than four are gathered, you'll find a band of fools. He also declared, glory to the man who, lacking lofty ideals contents himself with not being a nuisance to his neighbors. Alas! Our neighbors don't always return the favor. Not content with making you miserable, the irksome idiot is delighted with himself. Unshakably. He is immunized against self-doubt and convinced of his rights. The happy imbecile tramples your rights without a second thought. The fool takes his beliefs for truths graven in marble, whereas all true knowledge is built on sand. Uncertainty makes you crazy, certainty makes you stupid. You've got to choose your camp. The asshole thinks he knows better than you, and not only does he know what you should think, feel, and do with your 10 fingers, he knows how you should vote. He knows who you are and what's good for you better than you do. If you disagree with him, he will despise you, insult you, and assault you, literally and figuratively, for your own good. And if he can do that in the name of some higher ideal, he won't hesitate to attack the scum that your existence represents for him, with utter impunity. And here's a bitter truth: justified self-defense is a trap. If you try to reason with an idiot or to change his mind, you're lost. The moment you decide it's your duty to improve him, the moment you think you know how he should think and act, like you, of course, the jig's up. There it is, now you're the idiota and you're not tilde Macron V to boot, since you think you're up to the challenge. Worse, the more you try to reform an idiot, the stronger he gets. He delights in seeing himself as a victim who annoys others and who must for that reason be in the right. In reproving him, you allow him to believe in good faith that he's a hero of anti-conformity, someone who ought to be defended and admired. A member of the resistance. Tremble before the vastness of this curse. If you try to reform a moron, not only will you fail, you will also strengthen him and encourage imitators. Before, there was only one moron, now there are 2. Fighting against stupidity only makes it stronger. The more you attack an ogre, the more souls he devours. The horse feeders of the apocalypse. Thus, there is no way that stupidity can lose its power. It's exponential. Are we living today more so than yesterday and less so than tomorrow in the golden age of idiocy? As far back as the written record extends, the greatest minds of their ages believed this to be the case. Maybe they were right, at the time. Then again, maybe, like everyone else, they were just old fools. Nonetheless, the novelty of the contemporary era is that it would take only one idiot with a red button to eradicate all stupidity, and the whole world with it. An idiot elected by sheep who were only too proud to choose their slaughterer. The other great characteristic of our age is that, even if we admit that stupidity has not yet reached its pinnacle, we know that it has never before been so visible, so unabashed, so outspoken, and so peremptory. It's enough to make you despair of your benighted fellow man. On the other hand, who knows? It might inspire you to turn to philosophy to address the situation, given how hard it is of late to deny the vanity of everything and the narcissism of everyone, not to mention the inanity of appearances and the prevalence of sweeping judgments. If only a second Erasmus would write us anew in praise of folly, but in 280-character bursts, to save us from migraines. If only a new Lucretius would arise to bring us relief, and perhaps joy which we could relish, safe on shore, as the ship of fools sinks in the swirl, sabotaged by its passengers, who cry for help as they drown. Like a greedy gourmand, we lick our lips at the prospect of that desirable nectar, the war and fools among themselves, hackles raised, egos cocked. Great minds think alike, small minds collide. As you struggle to remain a spectator, not an actor, in this battle scene, it would be foolhardy to imagine yourself less vulnerable to stupidity than your bitter, braying, miserable, agitated contemporaries. But if by chance you turn out to be right, what a victory! It's wiser to be modest. If you try to rise above the throng, you won't be forgiven. Escape from the herd and you'll still be led to the slaughterhouse. Howl with the wolves, bleat with the sheep, but never go it alone. Everyone will cry foul. Needless to say, if you truly believe yourself to be smarter and more admirable than the average Joe, the fateful diagnosis is near at hand: you yourself are most likely an unwitting carrier of stupidity. Given the immensity of the catastrophe, the project of this book, which is to attempt to investigate stupidity, can hardly be anything but another act of folly. To tackle such a subject is to reveal yourself to be presumptuous, touchingly nichilde v, or at the very least, exceedingly foolish. I know this very well, but it's time that a brave idiot entered the breach. With a little luck, this endeavor will prove merely ridiculous. And ridicule is not fatal. But stupidity is. And it will outlast us. At any rate, it will bury us. That is, unless it follows us into the grave. One final point, these reflections on fools are not restricted to the male of the species. Let female fools take comfort. Neither sex has a monopoly on stupidity. And so I proclaim, O idiots of every stripe and morons of all kinds of blowhards and bitches, genial dumbasses and silly twats, dirty bastards and nasty ball breakers, pathetic ninnies and evil louts, dunces and ditzes, oafs and space cadets, poor slobs and dizzy dames, lunkheads and airheads, scatterbrains and dingbats, lummoxes and nitwits, imbeciles, boobies, numbskulls, dolts, wastes of space, blockheads, zeros, clowns, dummies, dimbulps, raging assholes, and empty-headed rubes, dickheads, pipsqueaks, lowlifes, daydreamers, mouth-breathers, pains in the ass and motor mouths. If this is your moment of glory, this book speaks only to you. But you will not recognize yourselves. Your devoted dumbass, Jean-Fran A. Section is Marmion. Page 10. AF.